Millionaire CEO comes home early and sees a scene she never thought she'd witness. Isabella Martinez had built her tech empire on precision, timing, and never ever leaving work early. But at 35, standing in the marble lobby of her Manhattan headquarters at 3 p.m. on a Thursday, she felt an unexplainable pull to go home. Her 7-year-old daughter Emma had been struggling since losing her father in a skiing accident 8 months ago, and Isabella's mother's intuition was screaming that today was important. Her driver, James, looked surprised when she slid into the back seat of her black Tesla. "Home, Mrs. Martinez. It's still early." "I know," she said, watching the city blur past the tinted windows. "Sometimes the most important meetings happen when we're not expecting them." Isabella had hired 12 nannies and caregivers since the accident. Emma had retreated into herself, barely speaking, rarely smiling, and Isabella felt like she was failing at the only job that truly mattered, being a mother. The latest caregiver, Michael Chen, had started just 2 weeks ago. The agency promised he was different, specializing in helping children through grief with something they called joy therapy. Isabella had been skeptical. How could anyone teach her daughter to be happy again when she herself had forgotten how to smile? The penthouse elevator opened to sounds she hadn't heard in 8 months. Pure, unbridled laughter echoing from the kitchen. Isabella's briefcase slipped from her fingers, clattering to the marble floor as she followed the melody of joy down the hallway. What she saw in the kitchen doorway stopped her world completely. Michael Chen knelt on the pristine white tiles, chocolate frosting covering his entire face like a warrior's paint. His black hair stuck up at impossible angles, decorated with bits of vanilla cake. Emma sat cross-legged in front of him, giggling so hard she could barely breathe, carefully placing another dollop of rainbow frosting on his nose. "Now I look like a birthday cake monster," Michael declared in a silly voice, making exaggerated monster faces that sent Emma into fresh peals of laughter. "You're the silliest monster ever," Emma squealed, clapping her hands with pure delight. "Daddy used to make funny faces too, but never with cake on them." Isabella's heart swelled and broke simultaneously. This was the first time Emma had mentioned her father without crying in months. Michael noticed Isabella in the doorway and grinned, completely unashamed of his ridiculous appearance. "Mrs. Martinez! Perfect timing! Emma and I were just creating a masterpiece, though I think we might have gotten a bit carried away." Instead of embarrassment or apologies, his eyes sparkled with genuine joy. Here was a successful businessman. She'd seen his credentials, knew he had an MBA, and had run his own consulting firm, sitting on her kitchen floor covered in cake, and he looked happier than most people in corner offices. "Mommy!" Emma jumped up and ran to her, leaving flowery handprints on Isabella's designer suit. "Michael taught me that sometimes the best way to make a cake is to become friends with it first. Look, we're both cake monsters now." Isabella knelt down to Emma's level, not caring about her $5,000 outfit. "I can see that, sweetheart. You look like the most beautiful cake monster in the whole world." Michael says that laughter is the secret ingredient that makes everything taste better," Emma explained seriously, then broke into giggles again. "And he's right. Even my sad feelings taste better when they're mixed with laughing." Michael stood up slowly, cake still adorning his features like colorful medals of honor. "I hope you don't mind the mess, Mrs. Martinez. Emma was feeling sad about her daddy today, so we decided to make a happiness cake. The recipe requires getting a little messy." Isabella studied his face. Kind brown eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, a gentle smile that reached all the way to his soul, and not a trace of the judgment or pity she'd grown to expect from people who knew about her loss. This man saw Emma not as a broken child to be fixed, but as a little girl who simply needed permission to be joyful again. "The kitchen can be cleaned," Isabella said softly, her voice thick with emotion. "But hearing my daughter laugh like that's priceless." Emma tugged on Isabella's hand. "Mommy, can Michael stay for dinner? He promised to teach me how to make spaghetti that looks like happy worms." Isabella looked at Michael, who was attempting to wipe frosting from his hair with limited success. Only if he promises to wash some of that cake off first. Deal, Michael laughed, and the sound was warm and genuine, and somehow exactly what their house had been missing. As Michael helped Emma clean up, Isabella noticed small things that spoke volumes. He knew exactly where the paper towels were kept. He automatically handed Emma the step stool so she could reach the sink. He turned on the water to exactly the right temperature without asking. "Michael," Isabella said as Emma skipped off to change clothes, "how did you know she needed this today?" He paused in his cleaning, considering the question seriously. "Children speak a language that has nothing to do with words, Mrs. Martinez. Emma's been carrying her sadness very carefully, like it's something precious she can't let go of. Today, she was ready to set it down for a little while and remember that joy doesn't betray her father's memory. It honors it." Isabella felt tears spring to her eyes. In 2 weeks, this man had understood her daughter better than she had in 8 months of trying. "How do you know so much about grief?" she asked quietly. Michael's expression softened with understanding. "I lost my wife 3 years ago. Cancer. Emma and I recognize the same shape of missing in each other." The revelation hit Isabella like a gentle wave rather than a crushing blow. Here was someone who truly understood their pain, not from textbooks or training, but from walking the same dark path they'd been traveling. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "So am I," Michael replied simply, "but I've learned that sorrow shared becomes lighter, and joy shared becomes brighter. Emma's been teaching me to remember how to play again, just like I've been helping her remember how to smile." Emma bounced back into the kitchen wearing her favorite purple dress, the first time she'd chosen to wear something colorful in months. "Are we ready for happy worm spaghetti?" Michael grinned at Isabella. "Are you prepared for the most ridiculous dinner of your life?" Looking at her daughter's bright eyes and hearing her musical laughter, Isabella realized she was more than prepared. She was ready to remember what happiness felt like in her own home. "Bring on the happy worms," she said, and meant it with every fiber of her being. As they cooked together, the kitchen filled with the kind of warmth that money couldn't buy. The warmth of a family learning to heal together, one silly moment at a time. But what Isabella didn't know yet was that Michael had been carrying a secret that would make this unexpected connection even more meaningful than she could possibly imagine. 2 weeks after the Great Cake Incident, as Emma had officially named it, Isabella found herself doing something unprecedented, rushing home from work not because of an emergency, but because she didn't want to miss bedtime stories. Michael had transformed their penthouse from a museum of grief into a home filled with laughter. There were art projects taped to the refrigerator, a blanket fort in the living room that had been declared a permanent architectural feature by Emma, and the sound of music drifting through rooms that had been silent for too long. "Mummy!" Emma called as Isabella walked through the door. "Come see what Michael taught me today." Isabella followed the voice to find Emma at the piano, David's piano, which hadn't been touched since the accident. Her small fingers moved carefully across the keys, picking out a simple melody, while Michael sat beside her on the bench, his hands ready to help, but letting her lead. "It's Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, but Michael says we can make it sound like different feelings," Emma explained excitedly. "This is the happy version." She played the melody bright and bouncing. "And this is the sad version, the same notes, but slower, more gentle. And this," Michael added with a theatrical flourish, "is the silly version." He helped Emma transform the familiar tune into something that sounded like musical laughter, complete with dramatic pauses and unexpected high notes that made Emma giggle. Isabella sank into David's favorite armchair, overwhelmed by the scene. This piano had become a symbol of everything they'd lost, too painful to even look at. Now it was alive again, filled with Emma's joy and Michael's patient guidance. "Your daddy would love hearing you play," Michael said gently to Emma. "I bet he's listening right now, proud as can be." Instead of the tears Isabella expected, Emma nodded seriously. "I think so too. Sometimes when I play, I feel like he's sitting right here with us." Music has a way of keeping our loved ones close, Michael agreed. It's like sending them a letter made of feelings instead of words. Isabella watched Michael with growing amazement. He never tried to replace David or pretend the grief didn't exist. Instead, he helped Emma carry her love for her father into new experiences, making the past part of their present joy rather than a barrier to it. After Emma went to bed, Isabella found Michael in the kitchen preparing his things to leave, as he did every evening at 8 o'clock sharp. "Michael, wait!" she called, surprising herself with the urgency in her voice. Would you like to stay for coffee? I mean, if you don't have somewhere else to be." Michael paused, his jacket halfway on. "Are you sure? I don't want to overstep any boundaries." "You've given my daughter her smile back," Isabella said simply. "I think we're past worrying about boundaries." They sat in the living room, the first time Isabella had used it for actual living since David's death, with coffee and the comfortable silence of two people who understood loss. "Can I ask you something?" Isabella said finally. "How do you do it? How do you help Emma process grief while staying so positive?" Michael was quiet for a long moment, staring into his coffee cup. "When Sarah, my wife, was dying, she made me promise something. She said, 'Michael, don't let my death make you forget how beautiful life can be. Promise me you'll keep choosing joy, even when it hurts.'" Isabella felt her throat tighten. That must have been incredibly difficult. It was. For a long time after she died, I couldn't see past the darkness. I lost my business, my house, almost everything. I was so focused on what I'd lost that I forgot to notice what was still possible. He looked up at Isabella with those kind brown eyes. "Working with children like Emma reminded me that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning to carry love forward instead of just carrying pain backward." "Is that why you became a caregiver? After losing your wife?" Michael nodded. "Sarah was a teacher. She always said that children were the world's greatest teachers because they haven't learned to complicate simple truths yet. When I watch Emma discover that she can miss her daddy and still be happy, she's teaching me the same lesson all over again." Isabella felt something shift inside her chest, a loosening of the tight grip she'd been keeping on her own grief. "I've been so afraid that if I let myself be happy, I'd be betraying David's memory somehow." "Emma told me something yesterday," Michael said gently. "She said, 'Michael, I think Daddy would be sad if we were always sad about missing him. He liked it when we smiled.' 7-year-olds understand what adults sometimes forget. Love isn't honored by suffering. It's honored by living fully." Tears rolled down Isabella's cheeks, but for the first time in 8 months, they felt cleansing rather than destructive. "I can't remember the last time I laughed before you came here." "You laughed yesterday when Emma put that ridiculous hat on during dinner," Michael pointed out with a gentle smile. Isabella blinked in surprise. He was right. She had laughed, a real, spontaneous burst of joy, and she hadn't even noticed it happening. "See?" Michael's eyes crinkled with warmth. "You're already healing. You just needed permission to notice it." They talked until nearly midnight, sharing stories about David and Sarah, about the funny things Emma said, about dreams and fears and the strange way grief could make you feel both empty and overwhelmingly full at the same time. When Michael finally left, Isabella realized something had shifted. The penthouse didn't feel like a mausoleum anymore. It felt like a home where love lived in many forms, memory and hope, sorrow and joy, the past and the present, all coexisting in the same space. The next morning, Emma bounded into Isabella's bedroom at sunrise, something she hadn't done since before David died. "Mommy!" "I had the most wonderful dream. Daddy was teaching Michael how to play piano, and they were both laughing because Michael was as bad at piano as he is at keeping cake on his face." Isabella pulled Emma into bed beside her, marveling at how natural it felt to smile first thing in the morning. "That sounds like a perfect dream, sweetheart." "Mommy," Emma's voice grew serious, "do you think Michael is sad and lonely at his apartment by himself?" The question caught Isabella off guard. In all her focus on how Michael was helping them, she'd never considered what he might need in return. "Why do you ask, baby?" "Because yesterday, When he thought I wasn't looking, he looked at the picture of Daddy on the piano, and his eyes got the same sad shape they get when he talks about his wife. I think maybe he misses having a family as much as we missed having someone to help us smile." From the mouths of babes, Isabella's 7-year-old daughter had noticed what she, in all her business acumen, had missed entirely. Michael wasn't just their caregiver. He was a man who had lost everything and found his way back to hope by helping them find theirs. And maybe, just maybe, they were helping him heal too. "Emma," Isabella said slowly, an idea beginning to form, "what would you think about asking Michael to stay for dinner more often? Maybe every night?" Emma's face lit up like Christmas morning. "Really? You mean like a real family?" Isabella's heart hammered against her ribs. Was she really considering this, a relationship with their caregiver? It should feel wrong, inappropriate, too fast. Instead, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. "Would you like that?" Isabella asked. "More than anything." Emma bounced excitedly. "Can we ask him today? Can we make it a surprise? Can we cook his favorite dinner and ask him to be our family?" Isabella laughed. The sound still surprised her with its lightness. "Let's see what happens, sweetheart. Sometimes the best things happen when we're not trying to force them." But as Emma chatted excitedly about surprise dinners and family plans, Isabella realized that something precious was growing in the space between them and Michael. Something that honored David's memory while embracing the possibility of new love. Something that felt remarkably like hope coming home. 3 days later, Isabella did something that would have shocked her business partners. She called in sick to work. Not because she was ill, but because Emma had woken up with a brilliant idea that Isabella simply couldn't resist. "It's Michael's birthday next week," Emma announced over breakfast, having somehow extracted this information during their daily walks to the park. "And he doesn't have any family to celebrate with because his wife is in heaven. So we have to throw him the best surprise party ever." Isabella sipped her coffee, watching her daughter's eyes sparkle with excitement. When was the last time Emma had wanted to plan something special for someone else? When was the last time either of them had felt the joy of anticipating giving rather than just getting through another day? "What kind of party did you have in mind, sweetheart?" "A happiness party," Emma declared with 7-year-old logic. "With all his favorite things. We need to find out what those are without him knowing we're asking." And so began what Emma dubbed Mission Birthday Joy, a covert operation that would have made CIA agents proud. Over the next few days, they became detectives, gathering intelligence about Michael's preferences through casual conversation. They discovered he loved old musicals, especially Singin' in the Rain, was terrible at baking but attempted it anyway, preferred homemade gifts to expensive ones, and had a secret weakness for chocolate chip cookies that were slightly underdone in the middle. Most importantly, they learned that he hadn't celebrated a birthday since his wife died 3 years ago. "He just treats it like any other day," Emma reported after a particularly successful reconnaissance mission disguised as helping Michael organize craft supplies. "He said birthdays are for people who have family to celebrate with." Isabella's heart ached at the loneliness hiding behind Michael's constant cheerfulness. Here was a man who spent his days bringing joy to others while denying it to himself. "Well then," Isabella said, pulling Emma into a conspirative hug, "we'll just have to show him that he does have family to celebrate with." The words slipped out before Isabella fully processed them, but Emma's radiant smile told her she'd said exactly the right thing. On the morning of Michael's birthday, he arrived to find the penthouse transformed. Streamers in his favorite blue and gold hung from every surface. Homemade decorations covered the walls, and the smell of slightly burnt but made with love breakfast wafted from the kitchen. "Surprise!" Emma shouted, throwing herself into his arms as he stood stunned in the doorway. "Happy birthday, Michael. Welcome to your first happiness party." Michael's eyes filled with tears as he took in the scene. Isabella had never seen him speechless before, and the emotion on his face made her own throat tight with feeling. "You did all this for me," he whispered. Emma planned every detail, Isabella said, though she'd never enjoyed a work project more than helping her daughter orchestrate this surprise. She wanted you to know that birthdays aren't just for people with family. They're for people who are family. Michael set Emma down gently, his hands shaking slightly. I don't know what to say. But say you'll stay all day, Emma demanded. We have a whole schedule. First breakfast, then present opening, then we're going to teach you to bake cookies the right way, then movie marathon with Singing in the Rain and popcorn, then dinner, then birthday cake. And, Isabella added, stepping closer, no leaving at 8 o'clock tonight. Today you're not our caregiver, you're our family, and family stays for cake. The look that passed between Isabella and Michael in that moment was electric, full of possibility and promises neither had dared speak aloud yet. The day unfolded like a perfect dream. Michael opened presents Emma had made, a photo album filled with pictures of their adventures together, a painting of the three of them as cake monsters, and a certificate declaring him world's best family member in Emma's careful 7-year-old handwriting. Isabella's gift was a first-edition copy of a book about joy and healing that she'd remembered him mentioning. Inside the front cover, she'd written, "For the man who taught us that happiness isn't betrayal, it's gratitude. Thank you for giving us back our smiles." Michael read the inscription twice, then looked at Isabella with such tenderness that her heart skipped actual beats. "This is the most thoughtful gift I've ever received," he said quietly. "That's not even the best part," Emma interrupted, bouncing with excitement. "Tell him, Mommy, tell him the real surprise." Isabella's cheeks flushed. She and Emma had talked about this, but now, with Michael looking at her with those warm brown eyes, she felt suddenly nervous. "Emma had an idea," Isabella began carefully, "and I realized it was something I wanted too. We were wondering if maybe you'd like to stay for dinner more often, like every night, like—" She took a deep breath. "Like you belong here." Michael went very still. "Isabella, are you asking what I think you're asking?" Emma couldn't contain herself any longer. "We're asking if you want to be our family for real, not just during the day but all the time, because we love you and you love us and families should live together." Do. The silence stretched for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds. Isabella's heart hammered against her ribs as she waited for Michael's response. When he spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. "I've been falling in love with both of you for weeks," he admitted, "but I was afraid to hope that you might feel the same way. I didn't want to overstep, didn't want to assume." "Michael," Isabella said softly, stepping close enough to take his hands in hers, "you've never overstepped. You've only ever given us exactly what we needed, exactly when we needed it. And what we need now is you, not as our caregiver, but as part of our family." Emma wrapped her arms around both their waists, creating a 3-person hug that felt like the most natural thing in the world. "Does this mean Michael can live here forever?" Emma asked hopefully. Michael looked at Isabella, and she saw her own wonder reflected in his eyes. "Would that be okay with you?" he asked her quietly. Isabella thought about David, about the love they'd shared and lost. Instead of guilt, she felt a warm sense of blessing, as if David himself was smiling down at this moment of new beginning. "More than okay," she whispered. "It feels like coming home." As they spent the evening celebrating Michael's birthday, really celebrating, with laughter and music and terrible attempts at decorating cookies, Isabella marveled at how naturally the three of them fit together. Emma curled up between them on the couch during the movie, completely content. Michael's arm around Isabella's shoulders felt like it had always belonged there. When Emma finally fell asleep, her head pillowed on Michael's lap, Isabella and Michael talked in whispers about the future. "Are we crazy?" Isabella asked. "Moving this fast?" Michael brushed a strand of hair from Emma's sleeping face with infinite gentleness. "Maybe," he said, "but sometimes the heart knows things the mind hasn't figured out yet, and my heart has known for weeks that this is where I belong." Isabella leaned against his shoulder, feeling peaceful in a way she hadn't experienced since before David died. Emma was right, you know. Families should live together. And we are a family, maybe an unconventional one, but a real one. The best kind, Michael agreed, pressing a soft kiss to the top of her head. As they sat together in the warm glow of birthday decorations, watching Emma sleep peacefully between them, Isabella realized that grief hadn't been their enemy after all. It had been their teacher, showing them how to recognize and cherish love when it appeared in their lives again. Tomorrow, they would figure out the logistics, the practical details of combining their lives. Tonight, they were simply a family celebrating the miracle of finding each other. And for the first time since David died, Isabella fell asleep with a smile on her face, dreaming not of what she'd lost, but of what beautiful new chapter they were about to begin. 6 weeks later, Isabella woke up to the sound of Emma's laughter drifting from the kitchen, a sound that had become as regular as sunrise in their transformed home. Michael had officially moved in 2 weeks ago, and their penthouse had never felt more alive. She padded barefoot down the hallway to find her 2 favorite people engaged in their morning routine, Michael attempting to flip pancakes while Emma provided colorful commentary on his technique. "Michael, you're supposed to catch it." Emma giggled as another pancake landed on the floor. "Daddy used to say cooking was like dancing. You have to feel the rhythm." Instead of the sharp pain that mentions of David used to bring, Isabella felt a warm glow of gratitude. Emma spoke about her father naturally now, weaving memories into their daily life in a way that honored the past while embracing the present. "Good morning, my favorite chaos creators," Isabella said, wrapping her arms around Michael's waist from behind and pressing a kiss to his shoulder blade. "Mommy!" Emma beamed. "Michael's teaching me the secret to perfect pancakes, but I think the secret is that perfection is overrated." Michael laughed, leaning back into Isabella's embrace. "Your daughter is a philosopher in the making. She just told me that the pancakes that don't look perfect taste better because they're made with more giggles." Isabella's heart swelled as she watched them together. Michael had proposed 3 weeks ago, not with fanfare or elaborate planning, but during a quiet moment after Emma had gone to bed, when Isabella had been curled up reading while he played piano. He'd simply looked at her and said, "I want to spend every morning for the rest of my life listening to Emma's laughter with you." The ring had been David's grandmother's ring, Isabella's own idea, because she knew David would have wanted it to represent continuing love, not ending it. "Speaking of Emma's wisdom," Michael said, turning in Isabella's arms with a mysterious smile, "she has something important to ask you." Emma bounced on her toes, practically vibrating with excitement. "Mommy, sit down. This is super serious." Isabella obediently sat at the kitchen island, fighting back a smile at Emma's earnest expression. "Okay," Emma began, climbing onto the stool beside her and taking Isabella's hands in her small ones. "My birthday is in 3 weeks." "I'm aware," Isabella said solemnly, playing along with whatever Emma had planned. "And birthdays are when you get to make wishes that might come true, right?" "That's the tradition, yes." Emma took a deep breath, her eyes shining with hope and determination. "Well, I already know what I want to wish for, but I thought maybe it would be better to ask instead of just wishing, because this wish needs all of us to make it happen." Isabella's heart began to race with anticipation. "What's your wish, sweetheart?" "I want Michael to adopt me," Emma said in a rush, then continued before Isabella could respond. "Not to replace Daddy, nobody could ever do that, but so that he can be my second daddy, officially and forever, so that when people ask if we're a real family, we can say yes with all the legal papers and everything." Isabella felt tears spring to her eyes. She looked at Michael, who was watching Emma with an expression of pure love and wonder. "Emma," Isabella said carefully, "adoption is a very big decision. Are you sure that's what you want?" "I've been thinking about it for weeks," Emma said seriously. "Remember when we went to Sarah's parent-teacher conference and Mrs. Johnson asked if Michael was my stepdad, and we had to explain that he was just Mommy's fiancé? It felt weird, because in my heart, he already is my second daddy. I want it to be official." Isabella looked at Michael, whose eyes were suspiciously bright. And you're okay with this conversation happening without you being part of it first? Michael grinned sheepishly. Actually, Emma approached me about this last week. We've been discussing it quite seriously. She even made me a presentation with charts. Charts? Isabella laughed through her tears. Emma jumped down and ran to the living room, returning with a poster board covered in colorful drawings and careful 7-year-old writing. See? This is all the reasons why Michael should be my second daddy. Isabella studied the poster, her heart melting with each item on Emma's list. He makes me laugh every day. He knows how to braid hair almost as good as Mommy. He reads bedtime stories with different voices. He helps me remember Daddy in happy ways. He loves Mommy and makes her smile. He already takes care of us like a daddy does. And at the bottom, in carefully decorated letters, we are already a family in our hearts. This would just make it official for the whole world. Emma, Michael said gently, kneeling down to her level, are you absolutely certain this is what you want? Because once we do this, I'll be your second daddy forever and always. There's no take-backs. Emma threw her arms around his neck. That's exactly what I want. Forever and always sounds perfect. Isabella wiped away tears, overwhelmed by the magnitude of love in her kitchen. Then I think we should call a lawyer and make Emma's birthday wish come true. The next 3 weeks flew by in a whirlwind of legal consultations, paperwork, and the most elaborate birthday planning Isabella had ever undertaken. Emma had decided she didn't want a traditional party. Instead, she wanted a family celebration, where the main event would be Michael officially becoming her second daddy. The night before Emma's birthday, as they tucked her into bed, she looked up at them with eyes full of anticipation. Tomorrow, I'm going to have the most official family in the world, she said contentedly. Daddy in heaven, Mommy here with me, and Michael as my second daddy. I'm the luckiest girl ever. After Emma fell asleep, Isabella and Michael sat on their bedroom balcony, looking out over the city lights. Are you nervous about tomorrow? Isabella asked, curled up against Michael's side. Terrified, he admitted with a laugh. Not about the adoption. I've never been more sure of anything in my life, but about being worthy of the trust you and Emma are placing in me. Isabella tilted her head to look at him. Michael, you've been her father in every way that matters for months now. Tomorrow just makes it official. Sometimes I can't believe this is real, Michael said softly. 3 months ago, I was just a man who had lost everything, trying to help other people's children heal because I couldn't save my own marriage from grief. Now I'm about to become a husband and father again, with a family that chose me as much as I chose them. Sarah would be happy for you, Isabella said gently. They'd begun talking about Sarah more often, and Isabella had learned to love the woman who had shaped Michael into the man she'd fallen in love with. She would adore Emma, Michael agreed, and she'd probably tease me mercilessly about crying during the adoption ceremony tomorrow. You're going to cry? Isabella, I've been crying on and off for 3 weeks just thinking about it. Tomorrow, when that judge officially makes Emma my daughter, I'm going to be a complete mess. Isabella laughed, pressing a kiss to his cheek. Good. Emma will love that. She told me yesterday that she hopes you cry because it will prove how happy you are to be her second daddy. The adoption ceremony was held in Judge Patricia Williams's chambers, decorated with balloons and flowers that Emma had insisted on bringing to make it festive. Emma wore her favorite dress, the same purple one she'd chosen the day after Michael's birthday party, and had made special boutonnieres for her 2 favorite men, one for Michael and one for the framed photo of David she'd insisted on bringing. We want Daddy to be here too, she'd explained matter-of-factly. He would want to see Michael become my second daddy. When Judge Williams asked Emma if she understood what adoption meant, Emma stood up straight and proud. It means that Michael promises to love me forever, even when I'm grouchy or make mistakes. It means he'll always be there to help me with hard things and celebrate good things. It means our family will be official in the eyes of the law and in the eyes of love. The judge smiled. And Michael, do you promise to love, protect, and care for Emma as your own daughter? Michael's voice broke as he answered, I promise to love her with everything I have, to honor her father's memory while helping her build new memories, and to be the second daddy she deserves for the rest of my life." When the judge signed the final papers, Emma cheered like her favorite team had won the World Series. "We did it. We're officially official." The celebration continued at home with Emma's requested menu. Happy worm spaghetti, the chocolate chip cookies they'd perfected together, and a cake decorated with sugar flowers and the words, "Welcome to the family, second daddy Michael." 3 months after the adoption, Isabella was in her office reviewing quarterly reports when her assistant buzzed in with unusual excitement. "Mrs. Chen, there's a call for you. It's from Emma's school, but it's not the nurse. It's the principal, and she sounds happy." Isabella's heart did a small flip. Calls from school were usually about forgotten lunch money or minor playground disputes. A happy principal was intriguing. "Isabella Chen speaking," she answered, having changed her name after their quiet wedding ceremony last month. Another wish of Emma's that had turned into a beautiful celebration. "Mrs. Chen, this is Principal Rodriguez at Emma's school. I'm calling with some rather extraordinary news about your daughter." Isabella's grip tightened on the phone. "Is everything all right?" "More than all right, Mrs. Chen. Emma has been selected as one of 5 finalists in the National Young Artist Competition for her painting My Two Daddies and the Rainbow Bridge. The judges were particularly moved by her artist's statement about love, loss, and family. This is incredibly rare for a second grader. Isabella sank back in her chair, stunned. Emma had been painting more and more since Michael came into their lives, but Isabella hadn't realized how remarkable her work had become. "The final judging will be held in Washington, D.C. next month," Principal Rodriguez continued. "Emma would need to present her painting and explain her artistic process to a panel of judges. I know it's short notice, but this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." Isabella's mind raced. Emma, at 8 years old, had created something so powerful it had caught national attention. What exactly did she paint? It's a beautiful piece, showing a little girl holding hands with 2 figures, one solid, one translucent, standing on a bridge made of rainbow colors. The technical skill is impressive for her age, but it's the emotional depth that really captured the judge's attention. She's managed to convey complex themes of love, memory, and hope in a way that's both childlike and profound. After hanging up, Isabella sat in her office, overwhelmed with pride and emotion. She called Michael immediately. "You're not going to believe this," she said when he answered, then told him about Emma's achievement. Michael was quiet for a long moment. She never mentioned entering any competition. Her art teacher, Mrs. Patterson, submitted it without telling Emma, thinking it might give her confidence, but not expecting anything to come of it. "Isabella," Michael's voice was thick with emotion, "do you know what this means? Emma has taken her experience with grief and healing and turned it into art that speaks to people. She's processing everything we've been through in a way that's helping others understand it too." That evening, they surprised Emma with a celebration dinner at her favorite restaurant. As they sat in the cozy booth, Isabella watched their daughter, chattering excitedly about her day, completely unaware of the amazing news waiting for her. "Emma," Isabella said when dessert arrived, "we have something special to tell you." Emma's eyes lit up. "Did we win the lottery? Are we getting a puppy? Is Michael going to learn how to flip pancakes properly?" Michael laughed. "Better than all of those things. Your painting, the one you made about our family, has been chosen for a very important art competition in Washington, D.C. Emma blinked. "My painting? The one with you and Daddy and me on the Rainbow Bridge?" "That's the one," Isabella said. "A group of very important art experts saw it and thought it was so beautiful and meaningful that they want you to come talk to them about it." Emma was quiet for a moment, processing this information. "Does this mean my painting is really good?" "Sweetheart," Michael said gently, "your painting is extraordinary. But more than that, it shows how brave and wise you are. You took something sad and turned it into something beautiful that helps other people understand love and family." Emma's face glowed with pride. But then she looked concerned. "Will you both come with me to Washington? I don't want to talk to important people by myself." "We wouldn't miss it for the world," Isabella assured her. The trip to Washington, D.C. was like a dream. Emma had never been on a plane before, and her excitement was infectious. She pressed her nose to the window during takeoff, describing everything she saw to Isabella and Michael with the enthusiasm of a nature documentary narrator. The competition was held in the Kennedy Center, and Emma was the youngest finalist by 3 years. As they walked through the halls filled with incredible artwork, Isabella felt a mixture of pride and nervousness. "What if they ask me hard questions?" Emma whispered as they approached the presentation room. Michael knelt down to her level. "Emma, remember what we practiced. Just tell them what you told us about the painting, why you made it, what it means to you, and how it makes you feel. Your truth is the most beautiful thing you can share." When Emma's turn came, she walked to the front of the room with her painting displayed on an easel beside her. Isabella's breath caught in her throat, seeing the artwork in this setting. It truly was remarkable. The little girl in the painting looked exactly like Emma, holding hands with 2 father figures, one clearly David, painted from memory, and the other unmistakably Michael. The rainbow bridge beneath their feet seemed to glow with hope and connection. "Hi," Emma said into the microphone, her voice clear and confident. "My name is Emma Chen, and this is my painting called My 2 Daddies and the Rainbow Bridge." One of the judges, a kind-looking woman with silver hair, smiled encouragingly. "Emma, can you tell us about your painting? What inspired you to create it?" Emma took a deep breath. "Well, my first daddy died in an accident when I was 7, and I was really, really sad. I thought I would never be happy again. But then Michael came to take care of me, and he taught me that being sad about missing Daddy and being happy about new love can happen at the same time." She pointed to the painting. "See, this is me in the middle, holding both their hands. My first daddy is a little see-through because he's in heaven, but he's still holding my hand because love doesn't end when someone dies. Michael is solid because he's here with me now, being my second daddy. And the rainbow bridge is all the feelings, sad ones and happy ones, that connect everything together." Another judge leaned forward. "Emma, why did you choose to paint a rainbow bridge?" Emma's face lit up. "Because rainbows happen when there's sun and rain at the same time. Just like families can have happy and sad together, and it makes something beautiful. My mommy and Michael taught me that it's okay to love new people while still loving people who are gone. The bridge shows that all love is connected." Isabella wiped away tears, amazed by her daughter's wisdom and eloquence. "What do you want people to feel when they look at your painting?" asked a third judge. Emma considered this seriously. "I want them to know that families come in lots of shapes, and that love is bigger than we think it is. I want kids who lost someone important to know that it's okay to let new people love them too. And I want grown-ups to remember that kids understand more about love than they think we do." The room was completely silent for a moment. Then spontaneous applause broke out, not just from the judges, but from the other finalists and their families. After all the presentations, the families waited in the lobby while the judges deliberated. Emma played quietly with her sketchpad, drawing pictures of their Washington adventure, completely calm despite the magnitude of the moment. "However this turns out," Michael said quietly to Isabella, "I couldn't be prouder of her. She just spoke to a room full of adults about love and loss with more wisdom than most people achieve in a lifetime." When they called Emma's name as the winner, she looked genuinely surprised. "Really? I won?" The head judge presented her with a beautiful crystal award and announced that her painting would be displayed in the Kennedy Center's Children's Gallery for a full year. "Emma," the judge said, "your painting reminds us all that art's greatest purpose is to help us understand and connect with each other. You've created something that will touch hearts and heal spirits for years to come." That night, in their hotel room, Emma fell asleep between Isabella and Michael, her award on the nightstand beside her. Still clutching her paintbrush from the celebratory painting session they'd had after dinner, She's going to change the world, Isabella whispered to Michael in the dark. She already has, he whispered back. She changed ours. As Isabella drifted off to sleep, she marveled at the journey that had brought them to this moment. 18 months ago, she'd been a broken woman raising a silent child in a house full of grief. Tonight, she was lying beside her husband, watching their daughter sleep peacefully after sharing her wisdom about love with the world. Emma's painting had won a national competition, but the real masterpiece was the life they'd built together. A family painted with colors of memory, hope, and boundless love. 1 year later, Isabella stood in the gallery of the Kennedy Center, watching visitors stop and stare at Emma's painting with the same sense of wonder she felt every time she saw it. The piece had become one of the most popular exhibits in the Children's Gallery, with a guest book full of comments from people sharing how it had touched their lives. "Look, Mommy." Emma tugged on Isabella's hand, pointing to a young boy about her age, standing transfixed before the painting with his grandmother. "He's looking at it the way I look at chocolate cake." Isabella smiled, watching the boy's grandmother kneel beside him as he asked quiet questions about the painting. She could see the moment of understanding cross his face, that same recognition Emma had hoped for when she'd explained her vision to the judges. "Mrs. Chen." A voice behind them made Isabella turn. A woman in her 40s approached with tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry to bother you, but are you Emma's mother?" "I am," Isabella replied, instinctively putting her hand on Emma's shoulder. "I wanted to thank you, and Emma, for this painting. My husband died 8 months ago, and my son has been struggling with the idea of me dating again. We saw this painting today, and he finally understood what I've been trying to tell him, that loving someone new doesn't mean forgetting someone we've lost." Emma looked up at the woman with her characteristic seriousness. "It's hard to understand when you're sad," she said matter-of-factly, "but love makes more love, not less love. That's what my second daddy taught me." The woman knelt down to Emma's level. "Your painting helped my little boy see that. He's over there talking to my friend Mark for the first time without being angry about it." Isabella watched as Emma's face lit up with the special joy that came from knowing her art had helped someone. "That's why I paint," Emma said simply, "to help people understand the happy, sad feelings better." After the woman left, Isabella and Emma continued their walk through the Kennedy Center. They were in Washington for the 1-year anniversary celebration of Emma's win, and tomorrow Emma would give a special presentation about art and healing to other young artists. "Mommy," Emma said as they settled into comfortable chairs overlooking the Potomac River, "can I tell you a secret?" "Always, sweetheart." Emma leaned close. "Sometimes I dream about Daddy and Sarah, Michael's first wife, and they're together in heaven, talking about us." Isabella's throat tightened. Emma rarely spoke about Sarah, though Michael shared stories about her sometimes. "What do they talk about?" "They talk about how proud they are of us for taking care of each other. Sarah tells Daddy that Michael is a good second daddy to me, and Daddy tells Sarah that you make Michael smile again, and they're both happy that we're a family." Isabella blinked back tears. "That's a beautiful dream, Emma." "I don't think it's just a dream," Emma said seriously. "I think love is bigger than we can see, and the people we love who are in heaven are still part of our families, just in a different way." That evening, back in their hotel room, Isabella shared Emma's dream with Michael as they tucked her into bed. "She's wise beyond her years," Michael said, pressing a kiss to Emma's forehead. "Sweet dreams, little artist." After Emma fell asleep, Isabella and Michael stepped onto their room's small balcony, looking out over the city lights. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if I hadn't come home early that day?" Isabella asked, leaning against the railing. Michael wrapped his arms around her from behind. "Every day, but not with sadness, with gratitude. We found each other exactly when we all needed it most. Emma wants to know if we can have another baby," Isabella said softly, a conversation they'd been dancing around for months. Michael went still behind her. "And what do you want?" Isabella turned in his arms. "I want Emma to have a sibling. I want to see you hold our baby. I want our family to keep growing." She paused, searching his eyes. But I also want to make sure we're doing it for the right reasons. What would be the wrong reasons? Trying to replace what we lost instead of celebrating what we've found. Michael cupped her face in his hands. Isabella, every day with you and Emma has taught me the difference between replacement and addition. We're not trying to recreate the past. We're building something entirely new and beautiful. Isabella smiled, feeling the last of her hesitation melt away. So that's a yes to more babies? That's a yes to whatever makes our family happier, Michael said, kissing her softly. 6 months later, Isabella stood in Emma's art studio, the former guest room that had been transformed into a creative sanctuary, watching their daughter put finishing touches on her latest masterpiece. This painting showed their family of 3 about to become 4, with Isabella's rounded belly prominently featured and Emma's hands resting protectively on it. David appeared in the corner as a gentle presence, and a new figure, Sarah, stood beside him, both watching over the growing family with expressions of love and blessing. "What are you going to call this one?" Isabella asked, settling carefully into the chair Michael had installed for her increasingly frequent art studio visits. Emma stepped back to evaluate her work. "I think love multiplies, because that's what Daddy David and Sarah taught us. Love doesn't divide when you share it, it multiplies." Isabella felt the baby kick, as if in approval of Emma's artistic vision. Michael appeared in the doorway, home from his new job as Director of Family Services at the Children's Hospital, a position that allowed him to help other families navigate crisis and healing. "How are my 3 favorite people?" he asked, kissing Isabella's forehead before examining Emma's painting. 4, Emma corrected automatically. "Baby makes 4. "You're right," Michael grinned, placing his hand on Isabella's belly. "How are my 4 favorite people?" "Baby's kicking a lot today," Emma reported seriously. "I think he likes my painting." "Or she," Isabella reminded her. Emma shrugged. "Boy or girl, the baby's going to love our family. We're pretty great at being a family." As if summoned by Emma's words, Isabella felt a particularly strong kick that made her gasp. "I think someone's ready to meet their big sister," Michael said, his hand still on Isabella's belly. 2 weeks later, David Michael Chen entered the world at 3:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, screaming his displeasure at leaving his cozy home. Emma, who had insisted on being at the hospital despite the early hour, took one look at her baby brother and declared him perfect, even though he's all wrinkly. Isabella held her son, marveling at his tiny fingers and the way he quieted when he heard Michael's voice. This baby represented everything they'd learned about love, that it could be lost and found, that it could honor the past while embracing the future, and that families could be built in the most unexpected and beautiful ways. "He looks like Daddy David," Emma whispered, gently touching the baby's hand, "but he has Michael's stubborn chin." Isabella looked around the hospital room at her family, Michael holding Emma on his lap as they both gazed at the baby with wonder, the photos of David and Sarah on the windowsill blessing this new chapter, and their son sleeping peacefully in her arms. "What do you think, little David?" she whispered to her baby. "Ready to be part of this crazy, wonderful family?" As if in answer, baby David opened his eyes and looked directly at her, and Isabella could have sworn she saw David's gentle wisdom and Sarah's joyful spirit reflected in those dark, newborn eyes. Emma leaned forward to whisper to her baby brother, "Welcome to our family, David. We've been waiting for you. We have so much love to show you, and so many stories to tell you about all the people who helped make you possible." Isabella felt tears of pure joy roll down her cheeks. Their family was complete now, not because they'd replaced what they'd lost, but because they'd learned to let love multiply in ways they never could have imagined. Outside the hospital window, the first rays of sunrise painted the sky in brilliant colors, like the rainbow bridge Emma had painted 2 years ago. And in that golden light, Isabella could almost see the loving spirits of David and Sarah watching over this moment of perfect beginning with smiles of eternal blessing. Their story had started with loss and grief, but it had become a testament to the miraculous power of love to heal, grow, and create families in the most beautiful and unexpected ways. And as Isabella drifted off to sleep with her son in her arms and her husband and daughter close beside her, she knew that this was just the beginning of their greatest adventure yet.